Well, hello again. It's early. If I look like I just got out of bed, that's the reason. I did just get out of bed. I'm also trying to use a new toy. I've got a gimbal now, which is basically the same as the selfie stick, but it's remote control and it does its own thing and it keeps everything from getting wobbly. I've just got to work out how to use it properly. A lot to do this video. I'm going to get myself into a position, hopefully by the weekend, that the sign writing's all done and I can start putting things back together, all the shiny bits, the lights, the badges, and all that. You can see everything's wet already. We've got a wet week forecast, quite heavy in some days, so I'm not sure how many hours I'm going to get to work on the bus, so I'm here early now. I'm going to get started on the rear. You may have noticed at the very end of the last video, there was a splash of red on the back and there was a tin of red paint and a paintbrush. I think that gave away that I was starting on the rear already, as I had good weather and some sunshine and some light. So I'm going to try and get all this done this week and we'll do a reveal video. Also in the comments of the last one, someone asked if I could maybe explain how I got to this point, how I got to be doing bus restorations. It's a good question. It's a long and winding story, but I'll try and address that in this video as well. So I got a lot to do. I got to go to work later. I'm going to get stuck in right now. Let's do another episode of Steve Stuff. Leaning on the bus I'm not using the rhythm stick with this. It just helps my shoulder a little bit and also makes it a little bit more stable. These edges have to be so sharp for the 3D effect to look good, so I'm taking it really carefully. Sometimes that stick would slip on me and then off goes the brush. This way it's going to be slower, but A, it's helping the shoulder, and B, it gives me a good sharp edge. I've just got to be careful I don't lean into what I've already done. Like that, which I just did. You bugger. This is automotive paint. It comes off with metho, funnily enough. So I guess it's just a white spirit kind of thing. I'd like to know where I put my palm. Maybe about there. Phone is running low on battery, so I just recorded the last letter. That's the last of the red. Now the green goes on the shadowing, the 3D shadowing. Same green on phone and Taree, and the phone number goes in a darker shade of green. That's it for right now though. I'm going to pack up. Well, I'm back after work. It's Monday, and we've got a pretty wet week forecast, which means if it rains as heavily as they say, I won't be able to get down here morning or evening to do anything. So I'm just taking advantage of tonight. It's dry. It's not going to start raining until apparently 3 or 4 in the morning. So what I'm doing, I tried a little bit of that shadow there to see how that looks. I might, if I can get this phone and this word Tari in, I might see if I can finish off the Eggins, and then that just leaves the comfort coaches and the phone number to do, which if I get lucky through the week and find a decent window, I'll have a go at it. The trouble is, even if it's stopped raining and it hasn't rained for a little while, water keeps dribbling down from those rain gutters and it seems to bounce just here. You can see some marks there, and look, as I speak, down it comes. Anyway, we'll soldier on, see how far we can get. I'm just taking this very slowly because it's a single word, single stroke kind of letter. Nowhere to hide a wobbly line or anything. I might just make the main part of the P here thicker and just leave that, and it just might blend in a bit better. I said this was going to be really, really tricky. Some of the shadowing actually butts up against, so I'm going to have to straighten that E again now, butts up against the other colour. Fix that up there. I just think it was too abrupt. It should be the same as that, and it's almost the same. I feel if I play with it too much more, I might ruin it. So I might just try and bring that edge around there a little bit. And then I'm going to go over and do that word Tari, because this is really, man, see what I mean about how complicated it is, but it looks 3D. I mean, if he worked this out in his head as he went, the man was a genius. I feel like I'm doing this in the wrong order, because every time I need to rest my arm somewhere, there's wet paint there. So it's got to be really careful. I didn't like, even though I stenciled this off what was there as best I could. I didn't like what was coming out with the, I didn't like what I did with the S. So I've changed that a little bit to try and copy the Eggins S, and I've still butchered it. So excuse me while I wipe that off and start again there. Right, finished. You can see I wasn't happy with the S. I think that's right now. And doesn't that, like I said, the 3D effect there, he was just a genius at his craft. That looks fantastic. I'll see how it looks in the sun. Obviously, I've got to go over it and fix up a few things. And then we've just got the phone number here that's got its own 2 colors. It's, well, I said that it was going to rain tonight, but it hasn't. But it looks like it's going to start getting quite heavy tomorrow. So I'll see you next time I can get down here. It's before work, it's quite early, Thursday morning. I've got to, I'm going to today stencil in the phone number so I can possibly start painting that tonight, or I might even get a chance to start doing it this morning. It's not supposed to rain today, but it has rained overnight quite a lot. So I was just chamoising everything dry and I noticed I missed a bit here. That's what happens when you work under lights. I didn't see that. So that's got to be green. That's a little bit of the 3D shadowing. I'll look after that in a minute and then get stuck into this. I came down this morning before work and stenciled that phone number on there. Hard to see with the light reflecting on it. Going to introduce a new colour to the scheme, the same as is on the Merlin. See the darker green there on the phone number. It's called salad green, and I'll be doing the same on that. We'll have a crack at that now. I got halfway through it before I realised I didn't have the camera going, so you'll just catch the last couple of numbers. This paint's really thin, and out of all of the colours I use, this is the only one that'll need a second coat. The same thing happened on the Merlin. It comes off the brush dark at the edges but thins in the middle. I mean, I kind of like the look, the brush strokey look, but yeah, it does help doing a second coat, just a light second coat over the top, which I can't do till tomorrow. But with this one though, you really see the brush strokes, so I've got to make it look as good as I can. I think that 8's got a bit of a fat hip, so I'll skinny him down a bit. Fix that up in a minute. Done. I was thinking, see the weird way that the green seems opaque? I was thinking it needs a second coat, but I'm starting to really like that. It'll look better in the daylight. It's got an emerald kind of vibe to it, kind of look, you know. Anyway, that is the back done. Now I'll come back tomorrow and clean up the messy bits and wipe off all the pencil lines and whatever, and see how that looks like in the sun. That's it for the day. Time to go home for a cup of tea. What I'm doing here is just a bit of duct tape along there to protect the paint. But I'm going to run the wire wheel around, you can see I've started there, around this window frame at the front and clean the windows. I think it all just looks a bit drab, lets the front down, so it's Friday morning. I'll do a bit of that now before work. Solved a bit of a mystery here. I was under the cover trying to re-drill those holes to put the badges in and realised that hole V upside down A seems to have been done by Eggins. That's not factory because it's covered over the holes for a couple of those letters. So I reckon that's why they haven't put them back in. It was too hard to do what I've just done then. I just made a mess, went in to have a bit of an explore. Hope I haven't weakened it. I don't think I have, but I've given myself access now to get to the screw holes. I think it's only these two spots, but that's slowed me right down. I've got to go to work now. That's a big job, but anyway, at least I know now where that bloody upside down A came from and why the Leyland letters were removed. Oh, hello. Here we are. Let me tell you what I'm doing. I'm trying to put these taillights back in. I finished the back boot, the painting and the other shiny things that I'm not going to show you right now. All underneath that rubbish I had to do a little bit of bodging, well not bodging, but adjusting. And then I put the heat shield back on so you can't see any of it. But this, my God, I've been sitting here for about 45 minutes trying to line this light up. Now, these don't seem to be in the right position to me from experience with my last bus and the measurements I got off the museum buses. They seem too low, but they're exactly marked as I took them off. So again, it's one of those things in the factory, it all just depended on the bloke that was installing them at the time, where he put them, because they are the factory holes. Anyway, I'm going to put them straight back. I could fiddle around and try and get them to where I think they should be, but I'm just going to put them back to where they were, and you'll see the result tomorrow when I do the big reveal video. So what I have to do is rotate them. These were mounted with the mounting bolts horizontal when they should be vertical. And when they're vertical like that, the Hella logo is on the bottom and there's a drain hole. And now these were skew-if again. It all depended on the bloke that put them in. This fella must have been on the piss on a Friday afternoon. So I draw the outline so I know that I'm going to put the thing back in the right spot. Then line it up with what I've drawn and I get a rough idea of where I need to put some holes. Okay, well that's crooked. Well, somehow I've managed to make that crooked. You didn't see that? Now this side's different. Because of the radiator, I can't get in behind to do up any nuts like I did on that side. Remember, I had to cut them off. So I've got to do this a little differently. I'm going to have to self-tap the base directly into the fiberglass. Probably more than just the 2 holes that are there. I might just throw a couple of extras in, just, I don't know, for strength. Don't like doing it this way, but it's a lot easier than taking this thing off. Okay. I think I can test the blinkers and the parkers. So I'll go and get some globes and see what happens. Yes and no. I think that's the wrong kind of globe. Righto, moment of truth. New globes in everything. We can test them all now except for the brakes. Let's see how it goes. Now I'm going to be a real bastard and I'm going to put all the lenses on, but I'm not going to show you that until tomorrow. And while I'm here now, the day's gotten away on me, that took forever. I'm going to put some side markers on and the rest of the lights that I've got off. And the Atlantean badge behind the back seat. Morning, well it's Sunday, it's reveal day. It's not beautiful and blue like they promised. It's cloudy, overcast, cold, windy, and it's threatening to rain. So I've got to try and quickly get this done. I've come down here early. I'm putting lights and badges, all the trinkets back on. I've got some tidying up to do around the stripes. Some flying foxes flew over last night and gave me some lovely shit all over the back. I've got to clean that off. I'm not going to show you that because the back's a bit of a surprise. I'll show you that in the reveal. I'll tidy up the inside, sweep, mop, all that. I want to try and see those window frames. They're a bit dull. I'll see if I can get a polisher around those if I have time and if it doesn't start to rain. Then we'll get some before shots on. I'll get the drone up and we'll do some reveal shots. Fingers crossed. Let's see how we go. Well, it's been a busy afternoon. I started to polish the frames of the windows with a machine. It was too much for my shoulder. So I got a couple of those done and then gave up. I've been around and I've cleaned all the windows on the outside. I've cleaned all the lower ones on the inside. I didn't get upstairs ones. Vacuumed, cleaned, tidied up, lights are on, badges are on, everything's ready to go. I'm just going to take a break. And while I'm sitting down having a rest, John Courtnidge, in the last video's comments, he asked a question. He said, how did you get here to be restoring these old buses? Well, John, hello. It's a long story, but the short answer is basically I've always been into old things. When I was 15, my grandfather gave me the old farm ute that had been sitting in the shed ever since he bought a tractor. I used to love it. I hassled him for it. He gave it to me. Here it is on the day we brought it home. And then I tinkered with it a little bit, you know, half-assed as a teenager does, here and there. And then I left home about a year later and moved to Sydney to start an apprenticeship. So that was the end of that. I still have it. Here it is now, in the shed. It's one of those things I'm going to get to when I retire, I think. Anyway, life and a career, and then years later I find myself in Perth, and I've kind of dropped roots a little bit, and the bug bit again. So I bought an FJ ute this time, a little bit later. The farm ute's a 53, the FJ ute was a 55. I bought it in pieces from an FJ legend who'd hurt his back, and he couldn't do it. So I took it on, got it ready. I've got no photos of the resto. I mean, it was back in the time when you just didn't take photos every time you went somewhere. I drove it around, I drove it to work, I drove it around Perth, and then a little while later I decided I wanted an EH Holden, so I bought an EH Holden. Brought it back to Perth. I had room in the backyard, taught myself how to spray paint, put that back together, got it on the road, looking great. It actually made it into a magazine. Then I bought an XD Falcon. I had to have it because it was orange. It was a 79. We had an XE when I was a kid, so I kind of loved the shape. It needed a little bit of work, so I did that, and then that became my daily driver until I actually moved back to New South Wales when I sold it because I needed something with a little bit of, I don't know, air conditioning and power steering. Not long after the XD, I stumbled across an XB GT on eBay. Always loved the XBs. Dad had a Smicko Fairmont V8 when I was a kid. Anyway, it also needed a spray job and a bit of a tickle, so I did that. Brought it back to New South Wales with me. Still have that car. Then situations changed. I decided to move back here, so I didn't want to take the dog on a plane. Thought, why not drive across the country with the dog? So I bought an old bus, and I needed some quick cash, so I sold the FJ ute, turned this old AM100 into a motorhome of sorts. It's basically fitted out with IKEA cupboards and things like that. It was quite heavy. Drove across the country with the dog, had a great time. It was a blast, I'll never forget it. Moved that on, bought a house, renovated the house, again, with my hands, love working with my hands. And then I decided I need a job. So I bought an old ambulance, a New South Wales F100 ambulance, converted it into a coffee truck. And did that for a while. And then next minute, I'm in Sydney. Oh, don't forget the caravan. I did an old Carapark caravan. I wanted it to match the FJ that I have now, the sedan. So I fixed up an old Carapark caravan, and now, well, it hasn't for a while, but it goes to shows with the FJ. Anyway, fast forward, I'm in Sydney, I'm living in an apartment, no garden, no toys to play with, didn't know what to do. Someone said, join the Sydney Bus Museum as a volunteer driver. So I did that, made some great friends, met some great people. And then one day 1128 came along for sale, and I suggested to the general manager of the museum, you should buy it, and he said, well, you should. So I did, went down to Adelaide, drove it back, restored it, 1128. It's one of the first videos on the channel. Then along came the Merlin, it's also on a video. And then this bus, 1101, the circumstances with it changed. It became not so much of a museum job, but a job that was just languishing, and the owner didn't have the time to do it, offered it to me. I quickly sold 1128, and here we are. So John, thanks for the question. Always loved playing with my hands, always loved old things, and I love the result, sitting down at the end and seeing how everything looks. That's the short answer. You don't want to hear the long one, we'll be here all week. Anyway, it's time to get a look at this bus. But before I do that, here's what it looked like when I bought it. scrubs up well, doesn't she? It's a shame about the drone. I couldn't really fly it. It was too windy. It was doing a lot of this. It was beeping a lot. It kept wanting to return to base. I actually flew it into a bush at one point. And it was getting attacked by plovers. There must be some plovers out there nesting somewhere. Anyone in Australia knows you don't go near plovers' nests or their chicks. So that was also going on. But I think you'll agree, even with the walk around with the camera that I had to do the old school way, she looks great. And that's 95% of the exterior done now. I want to polish the window frames, make them pop. And then there's the wheel arches on the near side. I've got an idea for the repair of those. I'll collect some supplies through the week and maybe make a start on that on this weekend, or maybe I'll just take the weekend off, rest the shoulder, spend the weekend on the couch. We'll see how we go. After that, there's some mechanical stuff needs looking at. The centre door won't close. That's something to do with a magnetic switch somewhere. There's the weeping fuel pump or the lift pump. There is an air leak on one of the hoses or joins somewhere near the air compressor. And it still won't start off the button off the dash. I've got to start it at the starter motor. There's a relay thing there. They're all things I need help from Scott. He was supposed to be down earlier this month, but the reason he was coming got cancelled. He's back, I think, later this month for the Shannon's Eastern Creek Classic, which I was going to put this into, and I could now because it's ready to go, but I'm going to wait until Busfest, which is in November. So I'll see if I can get hold of Scott for a little bit while he's here and try and get those mechanical jobs done. I've got a big 3-week US kind of work holiday coming up shortly, which is why I've been trying to get ahead of the game with this. When I get back from that, it'll be 5 weeks until Busfest, and that's the amount of time I'll have to get her all ready. Maybe get the radiator back in the Merlin, and I'd love to take both buses. We'll see how we go. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for coming along on the ride. 21 weeks. So for me, that's 21 weekends and a couple of hours before and after work through the week that I've managed to get this done. It's not spray painted. It's not a Mickey Mouse thousands of dollar job, but for me, it's a bus and it looks as good as anything. I'm really happy with it. That's very hard wearing epoxy enamel paint, and it'll last for ages. That one's been painted for 18 months and it still looks great. So there's other jobs to film. I'll take you on the US trip with me, obviously. Then there's Busfest, and then we're maybe looking at taking it up to Taree over the Christmas break. We'll see how we go with that. So until the next one, I don't even have a beer to cheers you with. I'm on doctor's orders. No salt, no caffeine, and no alcohol for a month to try and get my blood pressure down. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, cheers. See you soon on Steve Stuff.